Shalom everybody, and welcome to Advanced Hebrew. This is week number 7, and you can find the notes for this class at theregathering.com/page/PFT Hebrew 3, or you can just get on your account at theregathering.com, click on the Pages tab, search for Advanced Hebrew, and it'll pop right up. As I said, this is week number 7. And of course, previous classes can also be found on YouTube at the Passion For Truth video channel. All right, the topic of the day is numbers, or an introduction to numbers, rather. We're not going to cover every single aspect of numbers today, but I do want to give a brief intro so that you can count to 10. That's a great thing to be able to do in any language you learn. It's a little more involved in Hebrew than it is in a number of other languages, and so I will show you some of that involvement right now. There are two kinds of numbers. There are cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers. Cardinal numbers are the first topic that we will cover, and those basically represent a quantity: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay, 5 ducks, 4 geese, 3 kibbutzes, whatever the case may be. So, cardinal numbers in Hebrew have two genders. Okay, they can be masculine or they can be feminine, and they have two ways they can function. Okay, so a cardinal function, the first function I will introduce is numbers functioning as adjectives. Okay, so in the masculine, counting from 1 to 10, we have echad, shenayim, shalosh, arbang, chamesh, shesh, shevang, shemona, teshang, and eser. Okay, so that is counting in the masculine, and there are also equivalents in feminine. I will show some of those. I'll start with the number 1. It's a little bit funny, so bear with me. The masculine form of the number 1 is echad. So if we have a masculine noun, and we wish to say there is one, okay, so one horse, say, we have to match our adjective, our number 1, in gender with our subject. So we would say sus echad, because echad is masculine, sus is a masculine noun. Sus echad. Actually, let's go with one man, ish echad, okay, for parity. Because when we say one woman, okay, woman is isha, and woman is feminine, so we need the feminine form of 1, which happens to be achat. And these are listed in your notes. All of the cardinal numbers, the masculine and feminine forms, are listed in the notes in their adjective form. Okay, so isha achat would be one woman. Ish echad, isha achat. Okay, so that's how we use the number 1 in its adjective form. It must match gender. It already matches number because we can only use it with a singular object, right? All right, our number for 2 is shenayim in the masculine. Okay, so 2 men would be anashim shenayim. 2 women would be nashim. Remember, our irregular plural of isha is nashim. Nashim shetayim. Anashim shenayim, nashim shetayim. Okay, so shetayim is the feminine form of the number 2. Okay, so pretty straightforward so far. We can't help but match the number. Okay, shenayim is written in the dual form with this ayim patach, yod, cherik, mem ending. I'm not sure if I covered the dual form. This is a specific form that means exactly two. Okay, im, cherik, yod, mem, of course, is plural, means more than one, but if we want to say exactly two, we can, in fact, affix patach, yod, cherik, mem, which looks a lot like the regular plural, but it's pronounced ayim instead of im. Okay, we can affix that to the end of a noun, and it means exactly two. All right, in the case of the number two, it in fact has that ending. Okay, so we can't help but match the ending of shenayim with the ending of whatever noun we're modifying. Rather, the number. We can't help but match the number because we're talking about the number itself. So 1 and 2 follow the regular rules of adjectives when they are used as adjectives affixed to nouns. When we get up to 3, and all numbers above 3, a very strange thing happens, and that is that they still function as adjectives. They still follow the regular rules of adjectives. We no longer need to put a plural ending on our adjective because our adjective describes an exact number. So we'll have a plural ending on the noun, but not a plural ending on the adjective, because shalosh means 3. Okay, there's no need to add im or ot to the end of that. It already means 3. It already means a plural. Okay, so 3 men. The interesting thing that happens is that the gender actually reverses. So 1 and 2 have to match the gender of the noun. 3 and above have to not match the gender. In other words, if we say 3 men, we have to use the feminine form of 3, which is shalosha. Okay, so we would say anashim shalosha, 3 men. For women, we would have to use the masculine form. So we would say nashim shalosh, 3 women. Okay, this is a strange thing to be sure. You'll notice in the notes that I've got a thicker line between that separates 2 from 3 in our list of numbers. That's to remind you, all right, even though it's not written explicitly, but that is there to be a reminder that 1 and 2 have to match in gender. 3 and above, okay, have to match the opposite gender. Okay, they have to be opposite in gender of whatever noun you're modifying. So that is a funny little rule and something that can get you a little mixed up, but it is a rule. It is the way it's done. I'm not sure why, but whatever the case, that is in fact how it's done. Another side note, in your list, you'll notice on shalosh, I've only got 1 dot. I combined the dot that denotes the sheen with the dot that indicates the cholam vowel. I did that because I didn't have enough room to write both. And that's a convention that you will find in a number of books. When I'm writing things on the board, my preference is to include both dots so that there is absolutely no confusion. But if you note the absence of a vowel next to a letter and you note that there's a sheen or a seen next to it, that usually can't account for that absence. They're just combining the dot of the sheen with the cholam vowel. So this is pronounced shalosh, not shalsh. Okay, if it was shalsh, there would be a shva under here. Okay, so it is shalosh for 3. And shalosh is the masculine form, but it only modifies feminine nouns. Okay? And also from here on out, 1 and 2 have specific feminine forms where a particular letter changes to a tav. From 3 on up, all we have to do to make the number feminine is add kametz hey to the end. And a lot of times there's also an accompanying vowel change somewhere earlier on in the word. I'm not so much concerned about that, but the general rule, we just add kametz hey to the end of our number, and that makes it feminine, which means it can modify a masculine noun. All right, so it's a little strange, but that is how it is. Okay, so shalosh is 3, arbang is 4, feminine arba'a. Same thing, if we were to say 4 men, we would have to say anashim arba'a. We would need to use the feminine form with the kametz hey on the end to modify our masculine noun. All right, everything is, again, reversed once we get above 2. And nashim arbang would be 4 women. Chamesh is 5, and chamisha is 5 feminine. Shesh is 6. Shisha is 6 feminine. Shavang is 7. Probably where we get the name of our number 7 from, Shavang. Okay. Shavaga, 7 feminine. Shemone is 8. Shemona, changing the segul to a kametz, is 8 in the feminine. So Shemone and Shemona. All right, masculine and feminine of 8. Teshang is 9. Tishang is 9 feminine. And Eser, 10. Asara, 10 feminine. Okay, so those are the numbers 1 through 10 in their adjective form, or their adjectival use. There's a big word for you. All right. There is another way. Okay, so when they're in this form, they follow the noun they modify. And 1 and 2 match gender, 3 and above reverse gender, and otherwise they function just like a normal adjective. The other way to use them is to use them in the construct state. Okay, and both ways are equally legitimate, by the way. This way is one, and there's another way that's equally legitimate, which is to use the numbers in the construct state. Now, we've been talking about the construct state throughout the advanced courses, and I've given little pieces here and there, but you'll remember that basically what the construct state is we take two words and we put them together, and the first word is said to be in the construct state. So when we translate this phrase, we can mentally insert the word of between the first word and the second word. All right? So if we were to say a son of David, okay, we would take the word son, which is Bain, the word David, David, all right, and the phrase Bain David is now in the construct state. The way we know that is there are various things that happen to the word that is placed first. A lot of times a vowel change will occur, all right, a vowel shortening. So Bain David, just to give an example, just a little brief review on the construct state here. Bain David will usually have a vowel shortening. So this tsera will shorten to a segul. Tsera is a long vowel, long A, and segul is a short vowel. Okay, it's a short E, short E. Okay, so you'll see Ben David. All right, and that vowel shortening is our indicator that this phrase is in the construct state. Okay, so this means son of David, not just, okay, it indicates that there's a connection between those two words, that they're not just two words that happen to be adjacent to each other. There's a reason that they're being placed there. All right, so Ben David would be translated son of David. When we put numbers in the construct state, the same idea applies. So if we were to say one horse in the construct state, what happens is echad, when it's put in the construct state, spelled exactly the same. This, by the way, is not on anything in the notes, but that's because there's a few general rules that you can remember. Echad, the only thing that happens to it in the construct state is the long kametz shortens to a patach. Kametz is considered a long vowel in many cases, and the patach is considered a short vowel, even though in Sephardic Hebrew they make the exact same sound. Okay, but regardless, you'll see echad spelled like this when it is put in the construct state. Okay, so sus echad would be one horse. We could also say echad sus, okay, and we're saying one of horse. Now we would just translate this one horse, just like we would sus echad. Okay, so sus echad is being used as an adjective. Echad is being used as an adjective. Echad sus, it's still essentially functioning as an adjective, but it's put in the construct state. It's more of an abstract noun rather than a descriptive adjective, but this means exactly the same thing. Okay, and either one of these forms is equally legitimate. Okay, sus echad means one horse. Echad sus, literally one of horse, one of a horse, but we would still translate this one horse, and the idea is still one horse. Okay, but anyway, either one of these forms is legitimate. It's just a question of whether we're putting the number after the noun or before. If we put it before, we have to put the noun, or rather the number, into the construct state to indicate a construct relationship with the word that follows. All right, so with masculine, all the masculine numbers, this is pretty straightforward. Some of them don't change at all. Some of them have a small vowel shortening. I don't want you to worry too much about those vowel changes. Okay, just understand that when you read texts, you will find different vowels than these when these numbers are placed in the construct state. Okay. Now, when we get above 2, or rather, I'm going to focus on 2, particularly something I forgot to do last time. Okay, so that's 1. 1 is just a small vowel change. 2, if you'll recall, when plural words are put into the construct state, they undergo more significant changes than just vowels. So now if it's a feminine plural, makes no difference. Okay, it still stays in the feminine form. But a masculine plural word or a masculine dual word, when it's put in the construct state, will actually take on a new form that indicates it's plural. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if I were to say sons of David, okay, sons is banim. Okay, so that's sons. But if I want to say sons of, I have to use a new form. That new form retains the spelling. It drops the final mem. And puts a tsera where the chirik used to be. Okay, so sons is banim, sons of whatever comes next. Okay, when sons is put in the construct state, it becomes b'nai. Okay, so b'nai David would be sons of David. A common phrase in the Torah is b'nai Yisrael, the sons of Israel. All right, or children, because sons being the masculine can refer to either gender. Okay, it can refer to a mixed group, or it can refer to exclusively masculine. You know it's not referring to exclusively feminine. All right, but again, we default to the masculine, so that's why the translation children is usually preferred over sons. It's not saying only the sons necessarily. It's referring to all the descendants of Israel. Okay, so B'nai David or B'nai Yisrael would be sons of Israel. We do the same kind of transformation to Shanayim when it is put in the construct state. Okay, so 2 horses would be Susim Shanayim in the adjective form. Step off screen here for a moment so I can write this. Okay, Susim Shanayim. And if we put 2 in the construct state, we would say Shanei Susim. All right? So Susim Shanayim or Shanei Susim, either one means 2 horses. Adjective form, construct state. Okay? So it just follows the regular rules. These follow the regular rules of the construct state. Now the rest of these masculine numbers simply undergo some of them stay exactly the same, some of them undergo a minor vowel change. So don't worry too much about that, but just when you encounter it, you'll know, oh, okay, this number is being used in the construct state. Now, of course, these masculine forms, though, even in the construct state, they still, we have to use the masculine forms to modify feminine nouns and the feminine forms to modify masculine nouns. Okay, the feminine forms from 3 on up, as I mentioned, are all made by adding the comets hey to the end. All right, and that is, all right, in the adjective form, this is how it's made feminine. When these are put in the construct state, this hey changes to a tav. And depending on the number, we'll find either a patach or a segol in front of that tav. I'm not going to go into every single one. All right, but shaloshet, arba'at, all right, in the construct state, and so on. And we'd have to use these forms for masculine nouns. All right, so if we were to say 3 horses, we could say susim shalosh, or I'm sorry, susim shalosha, because sus is masculine. Okay, susim shalosha, 3 horses, or in the construct state, shaloshet susim. Okay, either one means 3 horses. All right, but still in the construct state, we've got to use our feminine form to modify our masculine noun in numbers 3 and above. Okay, so this is a little more complicated than Spanish. All right, but anyway, the others from 4 on up all function the same way. Okay, so we've got to use the feminine forms to modify the masculine. The feminine adjective form just simply takes the masculine form and adds the comments hey, and the feminine construct state changes that hey to a tav and uses either a segel or a patach before that tav. Okay, so you'll see all that. If you want to practice learning your numbers, learn them in the adjective form, okay, because that's how you'll normally say them anyway. And if you know the adjective form and you know the rules about the construct state, then you can reconstruct all the construct state forms. But anyway, that's the general rules behind doing that. Okay, so these are the cardinal numbers. These are numbers that represent quantity, 1 through 10. And they can be used as adjectives or they can be put in the construct state. Okay, so adjectives are put behind the noun that's modifying, behind the noun that they're saying there's this many of, horses, men, women, whatever the case may be. Or in the construct state, the numbers are placed before the noun. Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility with the cardinal numbers. All right, we can use them in many ways. And this is just 1 through 10. It gets a little even more involved once we get above that, which is why I'm not going to get into that just now. This is just an introduction. It's nice to be able to count to 10. And also this will come in very handy in in reading some of the scriptures that we're going to be translating later on. Okay, so those are the cardinal numbers. Now the ordinal numbers, that's what's on your other sheet. Ordinal numbers do not represent a quantity, but rather they represent a position. Okay, so instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the ordinal numbers are 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Okay, and that can be, place in line, 1st, 2nd, 3rd day, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place, anything where there's a counted position, that's your function of your ordinal numbers. So the first ordinal number is Rishon. Okay, Rishon. Rishon means first. Rishon comes from Rosh, which is Resh, Aleph, Shin. Rosh is a head. All right, Rosh means head. So Rishon is the head ordinal number, the first one, and thus it means first. You will, on rare occasion, also see Rishon spelled with a yod instead of an aleph. Okay, so Resh, yod, shin, vav, final nun. All right, and it's still the same thing, still means first. It's just an alternate spelling. This spelling is preferred. It shows the root, and it's the most commonly used. All right, so Rishon means first. The ordinal numbers also have to match in gender. And I did not include the feminine gender on that list because there's one thing that you can do to make any ordinal number feminine. It's different than the cardinal numbers. But to make any ordinal number feminine, add Chirik Yod Tav to the end. So first masculine is Rishon, first feminine is Rishonit. Okay. Second masculine is Sheni. All right, Sheni. Not to be confused with Shene. Right, Shene would be 2 in the construct state, but this is Sheni, and it means second. Right, as in second place. Sheni. To make it feminine, Shenit. Chirik Yod Tav. Okay, so for any ordinal number, take its masculine form, add Chirik Yod Tav to the end, and you've got its feminine form. And actually, as we'll see later, really all you have to do is add a Tav to the end to most of them, because most of them end in Chirik Yod already. Okay, so first, second. Okay, now how are these used? These are used differently than cardinal numbers. The ordinal numbers are much more consistent and much less flexible than the cardinal numbers are. All right, the ordinal numbers can only be used as adjectives. Okay, so they cannot be put in the construct state. They are used exclusively as adjectives, so they're always placed behind the noun that they're modifying. And ordinal numbers follow the regular rules of adjectives, which is no matter if it's first, second, third, fourth, or 156th, they match the noun they're modifying in number. Or rather, not in number. They have to match in number because they are a number. They match in gender. So masculine ordinal numbers go with masculine nouns. That goes for first, for second, for third, for fourth, right on down the line. There's no differentiation between different numbers. Okay? So basically, ordinal numbers are just regular adjectives. All right? Cardinal numbers have special rules. But ordinal numbers are just regular adjectives, much easier to keep track of. Okay? So this is first and second, Rishon and Sheni. Stick with the masculine for now, because you can simply add that it to the end and make it feminine. To construct the rest of the ordinal numbers, those can all be constructed, and you've got a sheet that lists them, but if you have your cardinal numbers memorized, you can reconstruct all of the ordinals from 3 on up by simply taking your cardinal number, take the last letter, and move it over. So stick a yod here, take what was your last letter of your cardinal number here, and put another yod here. Chirik, and you've got shlishi, which means third. All right, to make it feminine again, add your tav to the end, shlishit. So that's feminine. Shlishi is masculine. So the third horse would be sus shlishi. Third horse. Third man, ish shlishi. Okay? Fourth undergoes a special change when it's put into the ordinal form. The beginning aleph disappears. But the same thing happens to the end. The last letter is displaced by a yod, and another yod comes on the end. So this becomes revi'i, fourth. Okay, so the fourth man, ish revi'i. Fourth horse, sus revi'i. Fourth woman, isha revi'it. Okay. Chamesh becomes Chamishi. Minor vowel change there. Chamishi is fifth. Right? Sixth, instead of adding a yod, sixth just puts a dagish in the second sheen. Shishi, sixth. All right. Shvi'i for seventh. And so on. Okay. So Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi'i, Chamishi, Shishi, Shvi'i, Shemini, Teshi'i, that one's hard to say, and Asiri. Okay, that's first through 10th. Now, one special note. Okay, so special note I'll say for in just a minute. So cardinal numbers represent a quantity, right? And we've gone through 1 through 10. Again, 1 and 2, match gender. 3 and up, reverse gender. Okay, and you can use them as adjectives or in the construct state. Ordinal numbers do not represent quantity, but represent a position. And they function as regular adjectives, always following the noun they modify, and always matching in gender. There's another, it's really the same use of ordinal numbers, but there's another sense in which they can be understood. A lot of times, if we want to mention a fraction, so let's say a tenth. We can say Asiri. If we wish to say a tenth of a, it's a good example. Well, okay, a tenth of an omar or some unit of measurement. What we'll do is we will use an ordinal number to designate that. We'll use the feminine form of an ordinal number. Okay, so asirit. And it's not really a different use of an ordinal number. Because we're counting every tenth one. So, if you're going to give, say a tithe, all right, so a tenth of your sheep, well, you don't take the exact number of sheep you have and divide them into exactly tenths. Okay, if you have 77 sheep, you don't give 7 7/10 sheep as your tithe. You give 7. You give every tenth one. Because to count your sheep, you would funnel them into a small area where they can only go by one at a time, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so every tenth or every sixth or every third, whatever the case may be, is what you're counting. So it doesn't really mean the exact. In some cases, it does mean the exact fraction, but the idea is the same as the normal ordinal number. You're counting, every third one. All right, so the sense is the same. It's just you can use it for other units of measurement. So if you're saying, a third of a hin, say, or a fourth of a hin rather, of wine, that's a unit of measure of liquid. So you are measuring exactly 1/4 of a measurement. Okay, but when you're using it, when you're using ordinal numbers in that sense, always put them in the feminine, or you'll always see them in the feminine to denote that their fractional usage. But as I said, it doesn't always denote an exact fraction. Okay, in the case of some things that can't be divided so easily, it means every tenth or every third, or so on. You can't give 7/10 of your sheep. Not if it's to remain alive, anyway. So that is the other use of ordinal numbers. Okay, so these ordinals, by the way, you'll find in Genesis chapter 1, which is where we'll be going in 2 weeks' time, 2 lessons' time, because these are all used in describing the days of creation. And so, anyway, look forward to that, and we'll catch up with you next week for the next lesson of Advanced Hebrew before we get into translation. So that's an exciting thing. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then. Shalom.